You're not struggling to save because of irresponsibility. You're struggling to save because survival trained you to trust spending more than storing. For many people, saving should feel simple. But for some, they were raised around financial stress, scarcity, and instability. Saving can feel emotionally unnatural when money always seemed temporary, urgent, or already assigned to a problem. Holding on to it did not feel wise. Instead of learning that savings creates safety, you felt that learning money disappears quickly. So using it can feel more emotional than protecting it later. This is why as soon as money comes into the bank, your immediate reaction is to spend it. Whether it's to pay off the bills, to buy food quick, or just for emotional comfort. You're not used to having that money in your account. And that keeps us stuck in survival mode. And that means that when we're stuck in survival mode, our money behavior shapes differently. Savings can trigger discomfort instead of peace. And when we feel restless, seeing money sit in an account, we're tempted to move it, or afraid that keeping it means something else can go wrong. When we were children, we would always want to get up. We were restless. We were restless in our minds and in our bodies because we just felt like we had to get up and go. And the same thing, the same cycle happens when money appears. We feel this urgency to just move. We feel this urgency like, oh man, I got to spend this money as quick as I can, not knowing where it comes from. And this may be because our minds have been trained to expect emergencies and not margin. So stability from the nervous system will feel more familiar with urgency rather than reserve. What looks like poor savings discipline is often emotional distrust of peace. And after this happens, after the continuous repetition, it starts to become our identity. When we start seeing ourselves as someone who can't hold money and we can't build savings, it always ends up back to zero. We identify quietly and it shapes our behavior before any transaction ever happens. It makes us consistently feel fragile, progress feels temporary, and long-term planning feels unrealistic. So even when we want to save and we keep slipping back into our choices that we made before, it matches the instability that we secretly expect. Myron Golden puts it best. He says that your expectation will always outweigh your desires. If you desire to save $5,000 but you expect to blow it all, you're not going to save it. It's just going to go. If you desire to save $7,000 of your tax return or to invest it in a business, but you expect that it's going to go towards bills and it's going to just disappear, it's going to disappear. And that's because you've already set your predisposition, meaning you've already made the decision beforehand on where that money's going to go. And that's what happens all the time with our money without even realizing it. We subconsciously put a predisposition on our money, what's going to happen to our money, rather than what we need to have an intent for our money. And you could say you want to save, but saving feels emotionally harder than spending. And when you were raised around financial chaos, or if you were, then money always came and went quickly. And if the adults modeled panic instead of planning, or if every dollar was immediately consumed by pressure, then saving can feel different. It's not known to us. That's why practical money advice alone is not always enough. We don't just need a saving tip. We need a new stability in relationship with money. And you can see this a lot of times around people you know. Someone you know finally has a little extra money, but instead of feeling calm, they feel pressure to use it, move it, or solve something with it immediately. And on the surface, it just looks like lack discipline, but underneath is really survival being uncomfortable with stillness. It's like when someone who grew up in constant emergencies always feels suspicious when things get quiet, because peace can feel unfamiliar when pressure has been normal for them for too long. And that's what people miss. Some of us don't sabotage savings because we hate the future. We sabotage it because emotional stability feels emotionally unsafe. What survival has taught you to release stewardship must teach you to hold. And then here's how we shape the thought process of spending our money. It's better if the money is used than if I keep it. Or in other words, out of sight, out of mind. And that belief makes spending feel active and saving feel vulnerable. And over time, your brain starts trusting movement more than patience. It confuses action with control, but that's exactly how the cycle stays alive. And that's exactly why a lot of us as Christians are stuck where we're at. Because when God gives us an assignment on our life, and instead of us being still and knowing the Lord, the word says, be still and know that He is the Lord. We still move. We still feel like we have to get up and take action, because if we're sitting down, being patient, We feel like nothing's happening. The world is moving around us. Time is continuing moving, and we're being patient, expecting for something to come that we don't even understand. Think about it. Just like with Abraham, when God gave him the promise of the seed in the future, he saw his seed, his child. But he was in the promised land, but he didn't see the development of the promised land. But he was in the promised land that God promised him, that his children would inherit. And as soon as his child was born, X amount of years later, after it was prophesied to him, he moved. He kept in movement. But he was also still at the same time. We have to think about that as day by day. And the day by day is what seems so aggravating. And the potential way, the way you may get out of it, is that you have to shift. That shift has to move from urgency trained spender to patient builder, from reactive relief to protected reserve, and from survival thinking to intentional stewardship. You are not just saving money. You're building evidence that your future deserves to be protected. The first step is to identify the lie, the real problem, and expose that lie. The issue is not always that you don't care about saving. The issue may be that survival taught you that money is safer, that if it's used rather than being stored. And that hidden lie you tell yourself is, if I hold on to the money too long, something will happen to it, or I will need it immediately. Once you name that belief, you stop treating the cycle like a personal flaw and start recognizing it as conditioned. The second step to helping you recover is to understand the cycle and the root cause. The cycle often looks like this. You're discomforted and you're uncertain, and it rises. Your mind looks for control. Spending and moving more creates short-term relief, and that's the belief you give yourself. And safer, doing something rather than holding still. That emotional payoff reinforces that cycle. And once you see that cycle is from emotional before it's financial, you can stop shaming yourself and start building trust with money in a different way. And then once you have all that situated, your mind's calm, you're relaxed, and you're able to think, the third step is to build a small savings system that teaches your mind that money can stay without danger. Start with an automatic transfer, even if it's small. Put savings in a separate account so it's not emotionally mixed with spending. You have to name that account something purposeful, because words have meaning. And when we give words meaning, our subconscious mind takes that in and gives it that purpose. Name it something like Peace Fund, Emergency Buffer, or Future Stability. Then review it weekly without touching it, unless it serves the purpose you assigned it. The system is what teaches your mind that storing money is not deprivation, it's protection. That's how identity begins shifting from survival, spending, to steady builder. I want you to comment save if you want more information like this, and please be sure to follow and like for more.